What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we are at a new park in town, which doesn't happen very often, so excited to check it out and show you guys what's going on with Coker Park over here in, I want to say we're in Pelham, but yeah, greater Birmingham area. It's a suburb. And today we're going to be talking all about what happens when you take time off of disc golf. Is it like riding a bicycle? Oh, you feel completely foreign to me, unknown, an entity beyond my knowledge. Or maybe that's just like how you're feeling even though you've been playing lately. Before we dive in, we've got to ask the most important question of the day. How are you doing today? Bristol, you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
All right, so as we mentioned, we are at a new course, which is really exciting. I love when people put new tracks in, and Jordan Pridemore, local, I met him while I was filming another video that you guys have seen recently about putting, and we were just chatting. Obviously, I've met Jordan before. I was chatting with Jordan. I saw him on the course, probably the better way to put it. And he was like, yo, dude, have you gotten a chance to go check out Coker Park? And I was like, no, I haven't. He was like, hey, you got to check out this course, man. I think it is the definition of doing the most with what you had available. And I love when course design can really shine in that method. So I came out here. And I have to admit to you guys, I love having like initial reads and things. And I share a lot of my disc golf life with you here on the camera. And sometimes I just have to remind myself and bring that joy back into disc golf and just experience things for the first time. So this is actually my second time through the track, but what's really cool is that it has 4 different layout alternatives or options, because there is a short and a long basket on pretty much every single hole. There are usually 2 to 3 pin location options, and there's a short and a long pad on every hole as well. So what we did the first time through is we played the tips. We played the long to the long. I think we did. Had a great time. Really cool, really fun track. I think there are some really awesome sort of greens that are present. But the sun is coming out and we have some definite walkers coming through the course. So I wanted to, rather than trying to throw long bombs over the walking paths, we decided let's do the video playing shorts and show you guys something going on. Because I have to admit, if you guys have been following the channel, obviously I drop 2 videos a week, which requires me to film a lot of content, and I'm out there playing, but rarely lately have I actually played disc golf just to play, and much less am I trying to just enjoy or throw the sport, but I'm not really pushing my arm very much because, honestly, I felt a little burnt out on all of it. Like, full transparency, I personally am someone who really likes to invest and go heavy into trying to improve in a certain area, and I've been using all of that effort in another hobby. So this has been sort of on the back burner, and I have a travel trip coming up soon, so I wanted to make sure that we get the distance back up into the things. And in doing so, I had to remind myself that your arm isn't used to throwing hard and throwing super far and doing all of that, especially when I try to do it repeatedly, not just, hey, there's this one shot on the hole or the course that requires me to throw far. So kind of spurred this idea inside the video of what do you do when you've taken some time off, and how do you sort of come back to the sport? How do you come back to trying to improve once again? Or if you've been playing bad lately, what are some tips and cues that you should use? So we're going to use a shorter layout, which I realize I said I'm not pushing myself, so then we're gonna use a short layout. That seemed a little silly, Mr. YouTube man. But to let the arm sort of rest, because the current regiment that I'm on is pushing speed one day, rest but still throwing the next day and going softer. So that way I'm not just blasting and making my arm overworked in order to shine. So 2 things about this track are that there is this walking path through the course, and lots of the tee pads, like I said, most of them have 2 tee pads, but in a budget saving effort, right? A lot of the tee pads are on the walking path. Here, you can see there's 2 baskets. There's a short on this side of the creek, and then there's a long on the far side of the creek. They actually utilize the walking path to create OB quite a bit. And then this creek really does wind through pretty much the entire course. So really, really cool option there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go 2 off the first. There is, I think it's rocks or something on the other side. So we're not gonna go Precious Child because I'm not a silly boy and I'm not trying to lose it. And there is water directly behind. I can see water in this part of the ditch. Other ditches, not so much. We're gonna go straight pig. We're gonna go Zone SS in the ESP plastic and talk about, is that too far? No, that's fine. Nice straight up the gut. Drop. Yeah, second one's pretty good. So if you've taken some time off, I said it in the intro, is it gonna be like riding a bike or are things gonna feel completely foreign to you? And one of the first things that I think is important to realize is that if you are someone who tried to undergo a lot of form change and then you didn't really play with that form change for super long, then when you come back, a lot of those subconscious feelings are what's gonna take over, because your body's gonna be like, hey, this is familiar, but like not super familiar. And because it's not super familiar, it's going to automatically default back into familiar behaviors. Okay, we went 2 off the first. Straight pig was right there, but you know what we'll do. We got to, I'm trying to get back into it. So we gotta make sure that, hey, even these somewhat tap ins, it's a little windy out here, but we wanna make sure that we are practicing. Because that first putt was still a little wobbly, right? Once again, coming to the, it feels, there are natural feelings. I've thrown a ton of putts in my life, so that is a subconscious feeling that should be right there. But if you go too brain off, it's like, I think I remember how to putt, but really? Do I remember how to putt? Now as we line up here on hole 2, haha, tricky, because we're actually not throwing that way. I'm throwing directly at you, but I wanted to showcase here just different layout options, right? So here you have the short pad is up here, and then further back on the walking path is the long pad. It makes about 60 feet of difference, and so to the short basket that we're playing to, it's now a 260-foot hole, as opposed to back there, it's a 320-foot hole. This is a monumental difference. I also think that's really cool because you can play, this one's sort of tight to the OB creek, and then there's OB left as well. So it kind of runs into a point, really, really cool pin location. So you're in that pinched off corner back there, but then there's also way back to the right over the creek, another straight pin location. So we are going to go with the Zone SS. Again, I've really been enjoying this mold. It's one that I tested and instantly went in the bag. At USDGC, actually Discraft was selling it in the ESP plastic. I have a feeling that that's gonna be like a stock run next, but I mean, is this thing not absolutely gorgeous? Also, had to get my boy Bob, the president of Discraft, to sign it. And spoiler alert, we were definitely talking about the Fossil, which is that Ricky Pig, the new Discraft Ricky Pig. And he said, hey, it's a difficult disc to run, but I asked him straight up, we looking at premiums? And he was like, sometime in the future, we are definitely looking at premiums. Exciting news. All right, 260 feet. We're gonna let this thing have a little stability. It is a straight headwind, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, straight headwind, so hopefully we can keep the nose down on this. We're gonna throw it at the basket on the right and let it hopefully fade in time to the basket on the left. Or we're just not gonna do anything we said. We're gonna have a slight bit of Anheuser and hope it sits down. Ooh, could have trickled onto the OB, but this brings up the second point that when you're coming back, I think is important and worth noting. Don't be afraid to disc up. So we're gonna pull a buzz out here. And that buzz shot was really bad. Let's talk about it. First off, new buzz in the bag because Buzz Battles sacrificed my other buzz. So now we got an ESP Ezra Robinson stamped Peach Pyre 1 Shout out the ATL. But here, you have 2 shots. The Zone SS I knew into this headwind, I'm gonna have to give a full rip. So I threw it, trying to put some oomph behind it. And then I stepped up to the buzz, and instead of on the buzz being like, hey, you're doing this because we're lacking power because you've been out of it for a little while, I softed it. And because of that, the buzz ended up pretty short. So the Zone SS actually here is farther away, or farther away from the basket, but farther up the fairway, because we actually threw it committed. Yeah. See? Trickled. That's an anthill. So 1, 2, 3. Trickled OB. And we have a nice, solid, high quality death putt staring us down, because behind the basket is that OB Rock Creek. But life short. Stunt it. Yeah, that was just under committed. And that was over committed. And Goldilocks, does Goldilocks find home? Not with the Zone SS. Not the putter we are using. Would end up with a 4 on this one. A nice 250-foot par 4. I will say, in terms of the OB here, this is probably an interesting one. If I was running tournaments out here, this would be an interesting OB to enforce. You'd kind of have to, get the park's permission, because you'd really have to spray a line or make a line. Like, you'd have to tack a line along these rocks, because the rock line is not super fixed. So it's like, is it in the rocks? That's OB. If it's touching the rocks, is that OB? I mean, if you guys watch Tour Championships, rocks and OB are touchy subject in the disc golf world right now. All right, so here we have 1 tee and 3 baskets. The only basket option, I guess, it's 1 tee, 3 baskets, so the hole is the same for all of it. The shortest is a 400 foot, it's 400 feet, it's just right out there. 400 feet, par 3. We're gonna try to get on one, see what we can do. But like I said, we're not throwing far right now by any stretch of the imagination. I think what I realized is that I just haven't really been getting in a ton of reps. And so I actually, yesterday I did a Detective session, and I told my wife, just getting to 60 miles an hour on a backhand, I did it a couple times and my arm hurt. The best way I can describe it is for anyone who's ever played with your offhand and you like go to throw a disc really hard with your offhand and you can almost feel like the blood vessels in your hand sort of like swelling, because there's so much, as you come through and do the athletic motion and you hit at the end, there's so much like swelling that happens there. That's what it felt like all the way down my arm, which was like, I feel like we've been throwing lately. I feel like we've been playing. So it was kind of shocking and appalling to me. But opened my eyes to, okay, we have not been pushing our body to try to get back to distance thresholds. So I don't feel like I'm throwing very far right now. I feel like I'm throwing like 320 to 350 tops. So a 400-foot hole, let's just get it out there and maybe throw in a bowl cap. We're going Procyon. I thought about going trail, but like I said, I actually played, when I played the longs on this hole, the longs, I'll show you the green when we get up there. Protected, super cool. I went trail trying to, cause it's like the flippiest control driver I have. I went trail and I yoinked it over to the right and I was afraid I was gonna lose it. So we're going Procyon, just gonna try to rip it flat and let it carry on out there. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, it's not a bad shot. It is, and we threw it flat. I actually probably threw it maybe flat to slight anhyzer, got some turn out of it. It was nose up, so it faded out, but not bad. That's like as comfortable a golf shot as we can throw right now. But I mentioned it on the last hole, and I'll say it again here. If you feel like you're not throwing that far, or you're coming back to the game and things feel foreign or different, just accept the reality of your distances. Know that I've worked with Birmingham. We've got a classic scene of disc golfers out here, like guys that have been playing since the 90s, and they're all like, yeah, I remember when this disc came out, and like it's just this like very chest out, proud of history disc golf. And I'm fine with that. I think that's great. But we all have to acknowledge that we're not playing disc golf then, we're playing disc golf now. And so I think that whether you're an old timer in disc golf or you are someone who, like I said, took some time off and you're trying to improve again, the reality is we need to throw with the skills that we currently have and embrace those. Because thinking that I used to birdie this hole easily doesn't mean that I'm guaranteed going to birdie it now, and could often lead to frustration when you're coming back to the game. Full transparency, not as bad as I thought. This is, yeah. For once again, not feeling like, oh man, I've got great distance right now. That feels pretty great. Doggone it, let's walk it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 times 3, so that's 21, 30, 51 feet. Yeah, about a 350-foot toss. I'll take that. And I even said I'm throwing like 320 to 350, so that was in current distance feelings and fatigue or whatever of the arm. That's an upper third shot. Accept it, acknowledge it, celebrate it. Also, this is that green I was talking about. So it plays as a par 4 back here in the woods. So you're trying to throw a similar tee shot, maybe get a little more right, and then you're punching back here into the woods for the par 4. Really, really protected, but there is an obvious tunnel here that if you just get inside the tunnel, well, you're gonna have circle's edge putt, but the more you penetrate, the better chance you have at the birdie. Now I'm realizing I like bragged about how many layouts there are, and I forgot that the like double tee pad thing really shines for probably, I know it shines for 3 of the holes. It may only be 3 of them that have alternate pads, but this was another one that will show you the long and the short. So we're playing shorts. The long plays as a par 4 because it's back. You can kind of see that power line or telephone line or whatever it is back there. There's a little wooded cove back there. There's a middle basket location that's just inside that cove, and then the lawn basket's like all the way back in there. Really, really cool. But we're playing the short, which is tucked off to the left, and we're going zone SS. Gonna hang it wide, almost at that cove, hopefully. And then let it fade on over to the basket. Should be just what the doctor ordered. Now, people have a multitude of reasons that you take time off of disc golf, right? There are, for lots of folks who may be watching this, you may be in a slump because you've been playing almost too much disc golf lately, that you're very in your head, you've been trying to make some form adjustments, things like that. But people take time off for, like I said, a multitude of reasons. One, life change. Maybe it's a job change. Something has changed to where suddenly you just don't have access to the free time you did before in order to start or keep playing as much disc golf as you were. One that's coming up and is about to be really relevant for a lot of people is time change. If you've got a standard 9-to-5 job, 8-to-5 job, and especially here in Central Time, when you get off work, if time change has occurred, it's dark. You're walking out and it's pitch black. There is no time for the after work round, sadly. I remember the early days of Robbie C disc golf. Boop, we got a little freedom. Look at that, off the sidewalk. In the early days of Robbie C disc golf, when this was not my full-time job, I remember like, okay, I have to shoot a video, I have to film a video. When am I gonna get the chance to go play a round, much less shoot a video to play the round? And it was weekends. And it was always funny, right? Because you would get off work and you would have just absolutely beautiful weather, but no Yeah, that first putt was super undercommitted, but got lucky. That one also got lucky. There's a creek right behind the basket, and I'll tell you that like neither of those had popped in them. But it's like beautiful weather doing the thing, and then suddenly, okay, well, I can't play. It's beautiful weather, and then you get to every weekend and it's just raining. How am I supposed to enjoy this sport when it feels like the weather and time are stacked against me? Okay, this one was interesting because we, set prior expectations aside. I think that the long on this one's really cool because there is that Mando straight ahead. So in order to get to the long, it actually pushes past the Mando, but you have to be inside of it and still going right. So you kind of have to hug this tree line, which is really spicy. But the short is just, it's short of the Mando. So you're just trying to throw a little like high forehand around the corner. You could honestly just go like a straight putter shot out to, there's like a little hill right there, straight putter shot. Another classic misnomer, right, is that because the basket's off to the right, it's a shot that makes me throw to the right, where it's like, no, you could just throw like a really straight shot and probably have a putt, but we're wild. So we're gonna throw the forehand high. And hope it was a good one. So this is what I'm saying. There's like this little hill right here that's pretty straight off the tee. So if you decided to just not put any turn on the disc whatsoever, you could play out here and have a long, I mean, it's a 20+ footer. It's not like a gimme putt by any stretch of the imagination, but if you end up early in this mess over here on the right, that's a non-putt anyways. So I'd always rather put myself in a scenario where I get the chance to actually use my disc golf skills than, oh snap, I don't get to do that. Let's just be sad and miss the putt. All right, this is like my dream. I love when holes do this. So using what we've got, I think that they've used this little creek that runs through really well. I think most boring hole is that 400-foot par 3 if you play that one, but if you play into the woods as the par 4, it's really sick. Like even all the ones that seem to be boring have a really awesome alternate pin location. Whereas this one is the only hole on the course that I'm aware of that may be true for 7 and 8 as well. Because 7 and 8 definitely have a we ran out of space vibe. But actually I think hole 7 is like one of the coolest holes on the course. Like it's a really cool shot shape. But this right here is genius. So at its base, it's just a basket right out there in the open. But uniquely, the creek runs behind it, so you can't go too long. And they actually poured some concrete to make an island. So you have to make it onto the islands. 211 feet? Yeah, 211 feet. You're throwing from here, everyone's throwing from the same spot. Gotta make it onto the island. Really, really cool. We're gonna go ahead and let this lady run through. She's booking it, guys. We played one hole. She's done a full lap around the park. Alrighty, here we go. Precious Child at the target. One thing that I know I've been doing and my defaulting back is I've been trying to make sure that I'm still coiling and getting the free power that way, but my nose angle's been a little wonky because I'm so focused on the coiling that I'm just throwing probably 2 to 3 degrees nose up on average. So as we come back, I'm trying to get my swing path right first before I start adding in a bunch of speed and power to it, and let the train tracks of my good throw come back, and then we can speed it up from there. The bullet train in Tokyo still needs solid tracks. I actually didn't mind the line of that at all. Throwing Precious Child in this wind, really tough, because like you get it 2 nose down, it's gonna be super understable. You get it nose up too much, it's gonna be super overstable because it's a pig. I liked the line, just a little Height was a little off because we zoomed right past the basket. We just zoomed past it low. Let's see if it stuck the backside. Here we go. Rock. We caught the perfect rock because it kept us in. Bank. We're not out of bounds, so we cannot draw a line straight to the target. We just have to go straight out from OB. Important distinctions, everyone. Know your rules. Yeah, I mean, this is such a fun little hole. Like, 210 feet island green. This is one that, like, if my parents came in town and they wanted to go play disc golf, I feel like I could take them there because they could enjoy themselves and I could have a good time because they could play to the shorts, I could play to the longs. Or if Lindsay wanted to come play, that also works. Like, this track is super fun. I like it a lot. And we're playing shorts and still making it look difficult, which just shows you I gotta keep playing some disc golf. I think that's the biggest difference maker right now, is that so often I get out there and I'm just kind of throwing shots, but I'm not playing disc golf because I'm reviewing a disc. And so if I'm reviewing a disc like mids, we don't have to putt. But there's one part of the course that is like a little wonky. So here we are. That's hole 6's basket. Hole 7, and then the tee pad for hole 9 is right there. So this is our short pad on hole 9, but hole 7 gives us directions because that basket all the way out there, that's hole 9's basket. So this is our last hole of the video, but you actually turn right and we're gonna walk around here. This was like a little confusing to me, playing it blind for the first time, getting back here, sort of feeling out where the holes were and everything. But I'm showing you this so that if you watch this ahead of time, you'll know if you come to Coker Park. But we're just walking down here, and then there's a random poured concrete pad back there because, surprise, that's hole 9's long pad. So the 3 holes that have 2 pads are hole 1, hole 2, and hole 9, which also is really cool because you can play, because there's 2 baskets on most of the holes or 2 pads. If you're playing, it's a 9-hole loop, so you could really play like front 9s. We're playing the shorts to warm up, and we're going like short pad, short basket, and then you could play short pad to long basket, or you could play long pad to short basket. There's variations, but we're gonna walk right past the short pad, or the long pad for hole 9, and we're gonna see another sign that says directions to hole 7. And this one's a little confusing because when I got here, instead of I took a right because I saw open space over there in concrete, but that's actually hole 8's fairway. So if we walk around here, I should have seen it. There's another T sign right here for hole 7. Bang. There's a lot of walking and talking, so let's throw some frisbees. Hole 7 is one that I think people are going to look at and think that like this one doesn't actually have a line, if I'm being 100% honest, because it's pretty congested. I could see people's argument for that. I do think there are 2 lines. I think there is an outside line that you can miss a lot of trees pretty easily, and then when you get close, that outside line is actually the most protected on the green. Let's see if we can demonstrate it real fast. Yeah, so if I miss that singular branch, I get to clear a lot more space and swing into the green. But then there's this big, huge leaning tree in the middle. And actually, if you can get around it, once we clear the corner, I'll kind of walk with you up the fairway. Once we clear the corner, it's relatively open to the basket. So there is this like straight, oh, we didn't throw it on Anheuser. Let's try again. There it is. Is that an ace? but pretty close. So once we actually committed to throwing it on the angle, it just carries straight towards the basket. Super easy. It's funny, the first time that I did this, because this one, 7 and 8, there is only one basket currently back here, and there's only one pad. So I threw the forehand line and was like, oh, I think I got lucky cheating through the trees up by the green. I was like, I wonder what this inside line is, and I did the exact same thing with the Zone SS. So it's repeatable. But to show it off for you guys, you're coming through here. Like I said, it seems really congested. But then, I guess there's 2 trees to miss here. But once you get around here, even if you take this more design path, relatively open towards the basket, and then you can see here that this space is much more wide open. But then as you approach the basket, obviously, more protected green. But to quote the boys at Dude Perfect, this is how legends are made. Little outside circle putt, little Annie. Little outside circle putt, little Annie. Player number 2, you sly dog. You silly, silly dog. Okay, it's a really short hole, so as long as you don't like get a terrible kick because you're trying to be too aggressive off of the tee, you can kind of go layup, layup. And the Zone SS carried right past the basket. Pretty straightforward. I think this hole is awesome. I think that I really do think that people will look at this hole and think it's silly. I think if you use just a little imagination, why when I say it might be my favorite on the course. Now this is another one that I think that the line that's being asked is really straightforward. What they're asking you to do, I could imagine, is that you're taking something overstable. This is a Justice because it's only like 200 feet. And you're being asked to flex it right at the basket like that. Very straightforward. I think that is a harder line to pull off than most people give it credit for. So as long as you're willing to, you know, maybe say some kind things about this one tree on the right, but that one tree on the right does sort of make the hole. I think if you line up left side of the box, I'm gonna line up there and end up blocking your shot, everybody. But you can actually throw just somewhat of a straight shot down there, and you don't even have to push towards the basket. You can pull it a little bit right. Like that was way too much juice, but as I said, second time playing through here. The first time I was under committed and I ended up left. I threw 4 shots on this hole and I under committed on the Anheuser and I under committed on the straight shot, and that mess on the left is perfectly placed to eat up bad shots. As you can see, Justice was the right play. Some people are probably like, wow, dude, it's a sub 200 foot hole and you threw a mid-range? What are you doing, dude? It's like, bruh, let me get the shot shape right and choose the disc that does the shot shape versus just automatically hearing distance and thinking, that's this disc. Here we go. It is time to put some new, we were talking about this at USDGC. It's time to put a new wizard in the bag because the main wizard I've been putting with, I actually put in the bag at USDGC last year. We had been doing Dennis the Duck stamped wizards, which is this really pretty swirly one I have from the first ever run that we did. We've been doing Dennis the Duck stamped wizards, and then at USDGC last year, we dropped the Robbie C stamp. And so I've got Chanimal, Eric Oakley, James Proctor, and Raven Klein signed it. So I've been using this since USDGC last year, so it might be time to put a fresh one in. Now, the closeout sort of final tip of if you're coming back to the game, and I feel like this has just kind of been, hey, thanks for joining me for a round of disc golf, everyone. So if you enjoyed that, appreciate it. I don't know how many people will end up have stuck around this long, but hope you enjoyed, you know, trying to bring the ramblings and the fun. But sometimes you have to take a break from disc golf because you are sick and you are feeling out of it. So if that's the case, listen to your body as you come back. 2 things, let it adjust in its own time. Disc golf is still gonna be there when you're back to full health. Don't rush it, don't rush into it, because if you do so and your body's fatigued and you over push it, could cause an injury, which makes you have to step away from disc golf for even longer than you want to step away from. So while I would like to instantly be back to throwing 1100 and 1150 RPMs and my 63, 64 mile an hour backhands, right now, something in my arm is saying, hey, it hurts when we try to go for speed. Maybe because we haven't been throwing for speed that often. It's a very real possibility. But you gotta listen, you gotta do the thing, and you have to make the scoring adjustments possible. So another really easy tip to remember is maybe don't throw as overstable stuff, because if you don't have to throw overstable stuff as much, then you don't have to hit it as hard in order to maintain straight shots. And if you don't have to throw it as hard to maintain straight shots, it's gonna be less wear and tear on your body, easier to throw. You guys get the gist. 369 feet, and this is a great example of we're gonna try to make an adjustment. So normally I would grab probably Renegon Raider or Renegon Destroyer, because the Raiders aren't in the bag right now, and I would just pump it hard and low past this Mando and then let it fade in towards the basket. But we aren't feeling like we're throwing that far right now, so I'm gonna go Procyon, which is like a standard to flippy Wraith. This is the flippiest straight up driver I have in my bag right now. And until we get arm speed back up, there's a chance that I'm going to put back in my flippy Wraith as well. I'm gonna try to throw this on a forehand. I'm gonna try to throw it somewhat hyzer, maybe a little flat, so it turns for me, and hopefully it gives me a little free distance. And you can see there, even too much hyzer, and we end up super short of the basket. Let's go Wraith, a little flat. That's not flat at all. But that's where we're at right now, is the body doesn't feel right or normal. And so rather than adjusting for it and saying, hey, that's where we're at, I'm not trying to make excuses out here. If your body is failing, accept it and say, cool, how am I gonna adjust the plan accordingly? How am I gonna work with it accordingly? And so there, I wanted more turn out of it. And I did think that my Procyon's flippy, but I forget that those iBlend Wraiths are noticeably flippier. I feel like if I would have thrown the Procyon on the Anheuser that I threw the Wraith on, it may have had a chance to fight out of it, probably not. But I threw that Wraith like I was trying to throw. If I would have thrown the Renegon Destroyer on that line, probably would have been perfect. But alas, we didn't adjust, and we said, wow, body really didn't get on top of it. So then my body decided, let's get on top of it, bro. Let's throw that shot. Let's do that thing. Just not a very wise idea. Bro, come on, man. We got to get back to the power, or else the people are going to be in the comments. They're going to be like, wow, this little weak sauce boy out here. That's fair. I don't really think I'm deserving of anything else right now. But at least we can practice putting and, like, hopefully be good at that and upshots and do the things. And just know that if we go play New London, it's gonna be a bad time. Okay, last butcher block battle, which is where we review pig alternatives for those of you who haven't seen that series. I had a shot very similar to this distance that I just shanked. Big tailwind. There's a storm rolling in, Alex. We hit the middle. That is much better. Hiya! That is gonna wrap things up for today's video. In summation, don't be afraid to disc up when you need a little more distance because you're not throwing as far as you once were. Listen to your body. If it's hurting, if it feels uncomfortable, slow it down. Don't over push it because you will regret it, I promise. Have fun with it while you're out there. can't expect to score like you once did when you've not been putting in the effort. There are times where people do come back from a break, or they do come back from a slight pause and they play out of their minds for a little bit. I think it's because the brain isn't working as hard. They're just trying to figure out riding that bike again. And that's something to be noted. The power of the mind for derailing your success is powerful. But all in all, hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're gonna leave you with the birdie.